My name's Sophia Jones. I'm a third-year student at the University of Oregon. I'm a history major with a minor in WGS. It's important to me because I think that they're fields that are often poorly covered in public education. I think a lot of people aren't taught history through like a critical lens. I grew up in like the suburbs of Chicago, but when I was in high school, my family moved to Southern Oregon. I started working on campus October of my freshman year, so like almost immediately. Student workers are like really essential to the university. A lot of times working on campus is the only option for especially like freshmen because you're away from your family, you might not have access to a car, and commuting to somewhere else in Eugene can be really far. It can be like an additional financial burden to get there, to pay for your own transportation. As a kid, I definitely never aspired to be a union organizer. I don't think I knew that much about unions. I wanted to be like an artist or an author or something like that, and you know, whatever, we'll see what happens. But I was very interested in like social movements. I knew like a little bit about labor history, but never really thought of it as being something significant until I started learning more about it in college. As like we started bargaining with the university or like preparing to bargain, I kind of realized that like so I had to step up and start that, and that like I couldn't wait for someone else to like start advocating for my coworkers, and that like I was in the position where I needed to be that person. One of the major things that's really important to myself and many other members of our unit is a 2-week pay period. It's industry standard for food service and minimum wage.
So most of us have experienced like the law being broken in our paychecks, right? We have filed a complaint with the Bureau of Labor and Industries in Oregon and told the university's bargaining team about that, like legally filed a claim against them. And their reaction was, we still don't feel like we have to bargain on this issue. And again, so not only do they not respect us, they do not respect the law.
We're also fighting for higher wages, set to be realistic with the cost of living in Eugene, especially with a university that continuously increases tuition and rent. Like, it's really important for workers to be paid adequately to be able to afford to go here. We are also fighting for like dining specific things. We're fighting for a free shift meal. I have to pay for my shift meal despite the fact that I'm the person cooking the food, and then I'm also the one throwing out that extra food at the end of the night. It's like a little insulting. We're fighting for harassment and discrimination protections. It's really felt by members of our unit, myself included. Like, we sorely need it in our contract, and the university has said that they don't think that it's important. They think it's an issue that they've already solved. I can tell you from personal experience, it's definitely not solved. One major way that our union wants to support like the wider campus community is through our free speech and protest article. We consider it to be essential to our contract to include because of the suppression that so many of our campus labor leaders have faced. The university has free speech guidelines that they posted at the start of fall term of 2024, in my opinion, in response to the pro-Palestinian encampment that happened in the spring of 2024. And those rules are around like not carrying signs that are on sticks, and like not using amplified sound, which is like a really vague term because does that mean like a megaphone, a microphone? They have alluded that like chanting or yelling counts as amplified sound, which is like we're not allowed to talk with our own voices. Like, what happened to the First Amendment, you know? But our free speech and protest article would provide protections towards any student workers who want to participate in protests on campus. Basically, like providing them like third-party protection from both the university's code of conduct, like regulations about free speech, but also protecting students from like potential federal crackdowns on pro-Palestinian activity on campus, as well as like other activist movements that may face like repression under the new administration. Bigfoot is the beverage supplier for the entire University of Oregon campus. Their workers are unionized with the Teamsters Union, which is just like another large national union. So they've been on strike for a new contract, and the supplier, the company, has been refusing to give them the articles which they are demanding for their unit. And in terms of like labor on the university campus, this isn't like they aren't bargaining with the university, but the university is continuing to like allow scabs to come to campus to like replace like all of the like vending machines, and a lot of the beverages in like the shops on campus are stocked by scab workers for the Bigfoot company. In terms of like supporting the workers who are on strike for a fair contract, people in the like campus labor community have been putting up like posters and stuff encouraging people to boycott buying from the vending machines, and solidarity with other like unions in the area. I like to point towards GTFF, the Grad Student Union, as like a good example of how a strike threat works. For example, like at the BOM, we started collecting strike pledges, and that's like one of the most important things that student workers can do right now is fill out one of those and get their coworkers to fill them out as well, so that we can show the university that like student workers are ready to go on strike. I think one thing that's like really important to mention is that we are affiliated with United Auto Workers, which is a national union that has a strike fund, and so in the event of a strike, we would be able to pay everyone for going on strike, and yeah, it would be more than most student workers currently make. It's more than I currently make. So no one is like going hungry. No one should like not be able to pay their rent because of in the event of a strike. Like, that is not at all what we are about.
Think about like there are 4,000 student workers on campus. Firing 4,000 people and replacing them all within the span of a couple weeks is impossible. Training 4,000 people within the span of a couple weeks is impossible. Our like strength is in numbers here and unity, and everyone doing this together. Collective action is like the safety net here. If everyone at our workplace walked out, like who's gonna train the new hires, right?
It's hard when we're in the midst of the like contract to not feel discouraged sometimes. It's easy to like lose faith in the possibility of like us being able to bargain it out. But on the other hand, like it has redoubled my belief that like our actual strength within our union, like bargaining at the table is great, and it's really important for us to negotiate with the university in order to get the best contract possible. But that isn't possible without external pressure from workers themselves. And so I have so much like faith and belief in my coworkers and within like the like student worker community on campus for people to like respond to this and understand like that now is like the time to do something, and now is like the time to step up. The university will not give us what we want if they don't think that like all student workers are going to demand it. And in the past, especially when I first started organizing, it was easy to feel like it would be impossible to get like my entire workplace to a point where they would all be willing to fight for this in that way. And it's like, you know, it's a never-ending process of like talking to people about it. I also, biggest challenge, I had a lot of social anxiety when I started organizing, and that is something that I've been getting over because of this. Like nothing is more, it's like exposure therapy, having to like talk to people about something so that can be considered like radical or like kind of unusual to be bringing up at work. Like, but it's been incredibly rewarding to see how like invested in this my coworkers are. I am so proud of all of them. So many of them have like stepped up and really become leaders within our workplace, and are like taking charge on talking to like the rest of our workplace and like really covering ground. So many of them came to the Big Open membership meeting. I was so happy to see it. So yeah, just seeing that like people and like wider in like a wider sense, the Big Open membership meeting was like, it was so energizing to see how many workers would come to like a meeting. Like a meeting is not like an exciting thing to be invited to, but it was really, really incredible how many people were there and excited to talk about like going on strike and about building a strike threat. And like, yeah, that has been like really rewarding. I have intentionally taken like a lighter course load this term in order to be able to manage the amount of time that I commit to organizing. I try to commit as much time as possible towards my classes. Put the student and student worker, it's terrible, but it's true. It is, I think that is the biggest sacrifice a lot of us make, is our grades, or not our commitment to our education, but the time that we're able to invest in it. It is like something that a lot of us struggle with, knowing when to take a step back and focus on your academics and remember that like we are all here to graduate and to like get an education and hopefully like further advance our like potential careers later in life. And I really like value school and like try to get as much out of it as possible. That being said, I am not as good of a student as like my parents would probably like me to be. But I kind of wouldn't want it any other way, to be totally honest. Like, I love school and I enjoy learning, but I also feel like there's so much to learn from union organizing, and there's so many lessons that I've learned about not just like labor and like labor law, but also like about human interaction and building like a mass movement and collective action that I don't think I could have ever learned from a class. So, and I think like one thing coming out of this election and into this new administration is, at least in my opinion, both major parties have kind of abandoned the working class in this country, especially with a Republican fascist president. Having like a strong labor movement is the most direct way for people who are being disenfranchised by large corporations to take the reins into their own hands and have control over how they are treated at work. Our work is like one of the most valuable contributions we make to the world, and being able to make sure that we are paid a fair wage and that our workplaces are protected. Union contracts allow people to have like beyond just like harassment and discrimination protections that are no longer promised by the government because of getting rid of like DEI initiatives. You can have articles in your contract that prevent ICE from coming into your workplace and stuff like that, and that's something that our union wants to do. But yeah, it's the most direct way for people to have influence over their community and provide that level of protection that the government like no longer will provide. And I think that it's like a historical practice in this country of people who are in the most marginalized position that they've been put in by the richest people in this country to reclaim that power.